Hello everybody and welcome back to Typical City. Newcastle versus Manchester City this Wednesday, 27th of September, 8 o'clock kickoff at St James's Park. I am looking forward to the game in one way and I'm not in another way. I'm a bit concerned with injuries and suspensions, Rodri's suspension of course, and Newcastle's form recently beating Sheffield United 8-0. It's a bit of a stinker, isn't it? Bad timing, this game. Really bad timing. But I have heard plenty of City fans come out and say, just write it off. Knock it on the head. Give it up. Just quit, almost. Which is just pretty poor, really. I totally disagree. City have won this tournament 6 out of the last 10 years. We have been dominant. Pep Guardiola has lost 3 out of 30 League Cup games in 90 minutes. This is our tournament. This has been our bread and butter. We've used this League Cup as a platform, as a stepping stone to go on to do bigger and better things. We can't just look down and poo-poo the idea of the League Cup now. We're not that club. We're better than that. We're definitely better than that. But there is a balancing act that needs to be found here, because it isn't a case of just, all right, okay, in that case, throw the full strength squad on. No. There needs to be a balancing act, and by rotating, you're not giving it up. You are being mindful of injuries and fitness, fatigue, suspensions. Obviously, you can't be mindful of that. You have no choice. But we do need to factor in the injuries, because Pep Guardiola has recently been accused of whinging a lot about injuries and player fitness and the schedule of the Premier League, and then combining that with all the domestic cups and the Champions League. And he's got a point. A lot of people accuse him of whinging and just complaining, oh, City should deal with it. They've got the squad for it. No, they haven't. There are 94 players injured right now in the Premier League. 94. That's 4 full squads of Premier League footballers. That's a fifth of the Premier League are injured right now. That's what we're talking about, okay? So Newcastle, what have they got injured? They've got Joe Linton out, Joe Willock out, Emil Kraft out, Harvey Barnes is a major doubt for the game. City, Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, John Stones, Kovacic is a maybe. Rodri's obviously suspended as well, but that's not to do with the same subject, and I'll get onto that in a minute. But he's got a major point here. He's absolutely spot on, and it's not the big teams that are just suffering, and it's the little teams are suffering as well, the mid teams. Everybody's suffering because of the schedule. Everybody. And the international tournaments that are thrown in there, like midweek friendlies for international teams, it needs to be looked at. It really does need to be looked at, because from an entertainment value, I know fans want to see the players on the pitch, don't they? That's what they want to see. They want to see them performing and the teams playing. More football equals more entertainment. I get that, but Kevin De Bruyne is out for the whole season. Wouldn't you have rather have just skipped a week? Kevin De Bruyne remains fit, and here we could have Kevin De Bruyne playing, but instead we rushed him back and forced him to play football when his body wasn't ready, and now we've lost him for the majority of the season. So, you know, we have to be mindful of it, really. We absolutely do. But Rodri's suspension's the key place to start for Manchester City. How are we going to cope without our best player? He is our best player right now. Not even on form, really. Over the last 2 or 3 years, he really has been so good. And he's such an integral part to our midfield. But Kalvin Phillips got to be rubbing his hands together now, hasn't he? And so should we as City fans. We should absolutely get behind him now, because I've seen us dangerously tread on the toes of treating him like Harry Maguire. I've seen a lot of City fans just write him off already and almost letting him be the victim of City fans' abuse, you know, talking he's shit, just get him out of the club. I've seen those sort of comments, get him out of the club, he's not good enough. Even after the Forest performance, even the second half, people were writing off, when I think a lot of level-headed City fans will have looked at him and thought, he did all right. He didn't tear the world apart, he didn't set the world on fire with his performance, but you're not going to do that in defensive midfield. You know, you've got to do a job. Come on, be solid, keep a clean sheet, job done. Tick. Well done, Kalvin Phillips. Hopefully, he can fill in the void for Rodri. It won't be as good. We have to admit that. But there's a good player in there. There is a good player in there. And he's not going to get any better if we all get on his back. So we have to get behind him now as City fans. We have to support the kid and hope him that he can find his feet. And who knows, maybe he'll get confidence. Maybe these 3 games is exactly what he needs. And he'll beg the question for Pep Guardiola, put pressure onto Rodri. I imagine Rodri's walking straight back into that team, because it's Rodri at the end of the day. So Kalvin Phillips is always going to unfortunately live in the shadow of Rodri, because he's that good. But it's good to have this option. You know, Kalvin Phillips, we have to get behind him, and I think he is going to start. In terms of team news, my predicted starting 11, it's interesting. I've gone for Ortega in goal. I think that's likely to happen because Pep tends to rotate the goalkeeper in these tournaments. It's at the back where we've got question marks now, because I've seen plenty of predicted starting 11s from City fans that include Rico Lewis and Sergio Gomez in fullbacks. Now, first of all, you've got Anthony Gordon and Almiron, who are going to be potentially on the wings against us. Even then, it's like still Jacob Murphy's got speed. They've got threats out wide. And also factoring in the way we play. The way we play right now is 3 at the back, and one of our fullbacks is given freedom and license to go forward. With Gomez and Lewis, who are better going forward than they are going the other way, both of them, which one are you asking to stay at the back in that situation? Because one of them has to stay as part of the 3 at the back. Which one are you going to ask to do that? Which is why I've not picked Sergio Gomez and Rico Lewis. Gomez has had time in the Champions League. Rico Lewis has had very few minutes. Maybe this is the game for Rico Lewis, stepping in for Kyle Walker, but you're not going to get that protection from Kyle Walker on the counter-attack from Anthony Gordon. But you can't risk Kyle Walker, and this is what I was talking about in terms of balancing act of speed of Kyle Walker versus resting him and not risking the injury. Because we lose Kyle Walker for 5 or 6 games, then we are big trouble. Going to be a major problem that we'll need addressing. So I think a rest for Kyle Walker is on the cards. I have gone for Gvardiol, Ake, who came on. So I think Pep had an idea probably to play Ake in this game anyway, because he wasn't in the starting 11 against Forest. Akanji. So it would be Gvardiol left back, which tucks in as part of the 3 of the centre back. So the 3 that stay at the back would be Gvardiol, Ake and Akanji, and Rico Lewis as right back, who's given the freedom to go forward. Ahead of them, Kalvin Phillips, Nunes and Alvarez. Foden on the right, who will likely tuck inside again. Hopefully we can keep Foden fit. It's a risk to play Foden because he has been playing quite a few minutes recently, especially including England as well. But yeah, I've gone with Foden, tucking him inside, Rico Lewis overlapping Phil Foden. On the other side, I'm resting Jeremy Doku. Probably doesn't need a rest, but Grealish needs minutes now. He needs to get back into the squad. Grealish I've gone for on the left and Haaland up top. The problem with Alvarez and Haaland is like, well, who do you play up top? Instead of, if you want to rest Haaland, who are you going to play there? Alvarez. Well, we need to rest Alvarez as well, really, don't we? So we've been stretched. You could ask Phil Foden to go into and almost play a false number 9, revert to that system we played 2 years ago. Foden needs rest. They all need rest. And this is why the fixture's shite. It's a shite time to be playing Newcastle away. It's really a poor time. And we have to be mindful of that. And it's, I don't know. In terms of form, though, City have lost just 1 in their last 17 games against Newcastle. So I'm feeling confident in that aspect. But this is a tough game. This could be 2 in 18, potentially. But the fact that City, this is our tournament as well. We have to be strong in the League Cup. We can't just write it off as well. We need to focus on it. And if we come out of this with a win, that's an incredible. It really will be. But Newcastle have got mixed form this season. They lost 3 of their first 4 opening fixtures to the Premier League season. Yet since then, they've got 3 clean sheets in a row. So they've turned it round quite well, and they backed up that third clean sheet with 8-0 against Sheffield United, breaking a record in the process for the first time in Premier League history, 8 different goal scorers to make it 8-0 as well, which is incredible. So Newcastle are a dangerous team, but do they have imposter syndrome? What are they thinking mentally? Because every time I've seen them go up against a bigger opposition or a fear factor opposition. And I'm putting Brighton in that same bracket, by the way. Liverpool, they caved against Liverpool. 10-man Liverpool. Last 5 minutes, the game 1-0 up. Just see the game out. And they lose the game. Disastrous. Really unfortunate for Newcastle to be dropping points, to lose that game. Then they lose to Brighton away, and it was an incredibly dismantled performance. They got destroyed by Brighton. 3-1 was a little bit flattering. Of course, they went away to City as well, and that was a flattering 1-0 as well. We totally controlled that game. Even in the League Cup final last season against United, they caved. They mentally caved. They just weren't there mentally. They seem to play lesser oppositions and they wipe the floor with them. Everyone beneath them from 6th downwards, they have no fear factor whatsoever. And they play like the big team that they could potentially grow and become. But right now, they seem to have a little fear factor of going up against certain types of opposition. Could that bode well for us, or will they be using the 8-0 as confidence and the fact that we've got injuries and suspensions to deal with, and that maybe that sense of belief could be there with Newcastle? They've got the home crowd behind them. It's not ideal, is it? It's not ideal for City, but in terms of the starting 11 predicted for Newcastle, I've gone for a fairly strong team. Could they be looking at this tournament and going, we can win this? We got to the final. This time we're going to win it. Could they be going all guns blazing? And if they do, we could be in trouble. And I have a funny feeling they might do. Dubravka's back from illness, but I haven't picked him. I've gone for Nick Pope in goal. Trippier, Shah, Botman and Byrne across the back line. Longstaff, Guimaraes and Tonali as the middle three. And the front three of Almiron, Gordon and Isak. All three of those were pretty anonymous against City. A little flurry of attempts, half-hearted attempts in the second half against City, but they did go missing in that game. But like I said, it's St James's Park. Anything could happen. League Cup, one-off game. My prediction is 1-1, City win on penalties, which penalties and City are just, whoop, they do not go hand in hand, do they, City and penalties? But maybe tomorrow night rather, could be the case. Get your predictions in below. I want to hear them. Like and subscribe. Typical City is the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.
This is Typical City now, holding up silver.